A lot of people go into New Age thinking everything's sunshine and roses, and they don't know about the false light grid, or they don't know about false light entities in the false light paradigms that disguise themselves as light beings and disguise themselves as your spirit guides, but they're actually evil, and they have your worst intention in mind because they've been cut off from source. So they're vampiric in nature, meaning they need your energy to survive so they can do favors for you and promise things for you, but they are not what they seem. And this contributes to a lot of people who are ex-New Agers or who leave the New Age movement because these false light entities scare them and take everything from them. Most tarot decks today that you get at a store actually contain entities that are false light entities, and they're false spirit guides. So the ones that say ascended masters and they show those people who are ascended archetypes, usually they're not the actual person that you're actually channeling, and they're going to be a false light entity that has taken the place and has cleverly disguised themselves as that entity. And you might just not even know, because that entity will be really nice and rosy and everything at first, and they can even energetically put emotions in your mind to make you feel a certain way, but they are not really the same entities as you seem, and the energy they give you is fleeting, and you'll always notice that you feel drained after speaking to these entities because they're actually energy draining you. Time you make a deal with an entity to get information, even if it's through a medium, that entity is always going to demand something from you if it is not of the true light. And that demand will take some of your soul energy, and it can allow you to have basically you just fall into lower chaos realms. And there's no reason to ever make a deal with an entity for a manifestation, because you always have to pay for that deal. The best thing to do is to get strong enough in yourself and your own true light, and then do that manifestation with yourself and your own true light. Next up is talking about Lilith and the Black Sun false matrix that has taken over Gaia and has put a false grid on Gaia, and it oppresses the divine feminine energy, hence why many people worship divine masculine instead of the divine feminine. Hey guys, that's my knee. This video is going to be talking about Lilith and who Lilith is, and what Lilith is in terms of the false light construct of the third dimension. And when we talk about false light constructs, we're talking about things that are fallen light codes that are no longer connected to source energy. So they are disconnected from source, and they can't power themselves with their own energy, so they actually have to vampirize off of other things and get energy from the collective in order to remain relevant. And false light constructs can be found in the spiritual community. Typically, in a lot of New Age ideas, contain false light constructs and the beings who disguise themselves as light, but they're actually darkness. In the false light constructs that we are currently living in, there is a false divine feminine that's called the Black Moon Matrix, or the false light of the divine feminine can also be shown as a feminine energy that's masquerading as divine, but it's actually very lower chaotic energy. And Lilith is an example of an entity who tries to bring in real light by showing you divine feminine paradigms and looking like a divine feminine archetype. But Lilith is actually false light, because when we channel Lilith, we're channeling the archaic false constructs of the 3D and the lower astral realms. The true light of Lilith is really Sophia, which is a twin flame sort of Lilith. And Sophia is kind of the wisdom aspect of it, and she is the true light because she's connected to the Christus Sophia, so she's connected to a Christ code, which is the true light, not the false light. And channeling or doing work with an entity like Lilith can just lead you to getting succubus attachments, and your manifestations might come true, but you have to pay a big price for them because Lilith is a vampiric demon. She requires your energy because she does not have the connection to source or God energy, so to speak, to get energy and power herself. She's disconnected, archaic, lower, fallen angel archetype, and she's from the Tree of Death on the Qliphoth. Qliphoth is a Kabbalic energetic paradigm that displays what's called the higher realms versus the lower astral realms. So there's the Tree of Life, and then there's the Tree of Death, and they are constantly, exchanging, and basically it's like an as above, so below hermetic archetype. And Lilith, coming from that Tree of Death, means that people who are using black magic or left-hand path magic, which is magic that only serves the self, they are channeling and using those entities from those from the Qliphoth. And that is the path as they go down that Tree of Death. That is the path because they're using the chaos to manifest, and they're using darkness to manifest. The false light exists 100% to teach us what is true light, what is actually truly for our higher good, and what is truly connected to source, so that we can have the discernment spiritually to see what is of true light or what is a false light archetype, or something that is basically a Luciferian thing. Like a Lucifer is an angel of light in disguise, so that is an archetype that is good in disguise of being good, but is actually not good. And the false light can be tricked to us, such as using things like the Flower of Life, which has many false light archetypes inside of it, and instead we should be using the Lotus of Life, and that can help us to not get bad manifestations when we're on our spiritual journey, and it can make us just... So there's a false divine feminine, which is the divine feminine that is disconnected from source, and there's energy that's pulled to that. Even the modern feminist movement, it actually doesn't care about or support women. So it's part of the false light, false divine feminine paradigm, believe it or not. So there's a lot that sounds really good, and that's why the false light is called all that glitters is not gold, and everything that we see in the 3D is not exactly what it seems. So we have to work on and learn that spiritual discernment. And at the end of the day, it's all a spiritual learning experience, and it's not meant for anybody to be like, I'm right, I'm wrong, you're wrong. It's meant for people to gather and have higher spiritual discernment, and that's really beautiful, and that's really just awesome and cool. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys later. I love you guys. Bye.